Welcome to Global Entrepreneurship Week 2024. I'm Jonathan Altmans, and this is the 17th year since we founded this great global campaign to empower more citizens around the world to consider the path of entrepreneurship. And whether you're new to this field or whether you're one of the experienced builders and backers in one of our communities across the globe, you are now part of a movement that believes that we can solve problems, a movement in 200 countries that this week will attract over 10 million people to over 40,000 events. It's a very important campaign because it focuses on what we can create and build and do at a time when there's so many challenges for our world. And we really hope that you will look at this as an opportunity to be part of creating something new, building something better, of figuring out a new way of doing things with your fellow citizens. We believe that entrepreneurship is for everyone. In fact, that's our tagline and theme this year. It builds on the notion that we believe that entrepreneurship can happen anywhere, which is where we began this campaign, with trying to convince the world that Silicon Valley didn't have a monopoly on this. It could happen in any community, and it could happen to anyone. This week, you'll see a lot happening. I, for one, have the great privilege of speaking at the COP29 conference around the role that founders and startups have in actually coming up with solutions that can be implemented towards some of our climate goals, whether they're green tech or clean tech advocates, or whether they're simply looking at new solutions that will help execute what our government leaders feel is important to save our planet. We will also, in the other part of the world, it'll happen in Baku in Azerbaijan, but in another part of the world, in South America, in Rio, we'll be releasing our new G20 entrepreneurship report that will take a look at what are the latest trends and what are the latest developments happening in the major economies around the world within the global entrepreneurial ecosystem. I will also personally be in South Africa, where we'll open our latest Gen Campus, the 22 on Sloan Hub in Cape Town, an opportunity for us to show globally what can happen in a community that rallies around effective tactical strategies to enable more of its entrepreneurs to be able to succeed in their journey towards self-resilience and finding opportunities and turning them into reality. We'll have various members of our team in other parts of the world. In Europe, I know we have 3 members participating with governments. There's also going to be the Web Summit happening in Portugal. And perhaps most importantly, I'm very excited to say entrepreneurship will be celebrated in small left-behind communities across the United States. We're always so proud of the great campaigns that happen in Kansas City, the home of the Kauffman Foundation, which of course is the leader behind this movement, was the ones that developed the idea and has supported it from its outset. And we've been joined along the way by many companies, people like FedEx, who recognize the importance of empowering several communities and demographic groups that have been left out of this equation in the past. So I hope you'll participate wherever you are in the world, and that you're enjoying this week, and that you'll take a look at what's happening, whether on the research side or whether finding out what's happening in a community different to your own. But I also hope if you get excited about this world and you're keen to think, how do I take a next step? We are very pleased to announce that for the first time in many years, since it was actually initiated, the Global Entrepreneurship Congress will be returning to the United States. It'll be held in Indianapolis in Indiana, the first week of June of 2025. If you're planning a trip to the United States in 2025, please plan it around that time. Come and join us. Come and meet many of the leaders of the ecosystems across the world, where we'll have thousands of representatives, both leaders, investors, as well as, of course, the founders and the entrepreneurs and small businesses that are being enabled by this great movement. We'll all gather in Indianapolis for a week, and it's a great chance for you to make new friends, to create opportunities, and to walk away empowered with the understanding that actually this is a genuinely global movement in every nation, despite the fact that on the front pages of our newspapers, we see evidence of divisions among our nations and certainly among our geopolitical leaders. So if you're looking for a positive outlook for the future and you're thinking that you'd like to do a face-to-face connection, I hope that during Global Entrepreneurship Week, you will think about whether you can find a way to make it to the United States. You can go to gec.co to register. But in the meantime, enjoy Global Entrepreneurship Week and for everything that your community has to offer. And I want to thank you for giving this your thought, your time, your energy, as we all work together to figure out better ways of doing things. And we embark upon what is a profound mission to find ways that we can improve not just our lives, but those of our fellow citizens around us. Happy Global Entrepreneurship Week.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the 50 Plus Women Entrepreneur Panel, a cornerstone event of Global Entrepreneurship Week 2024. I'm your moderator, Michelle Samuel, and it's an honor to be here with you today. This year's theme, Entrepreneurship is for Everyone, as the president of Jen stated, aligns perfectly with our panel. Today, we're celebrating three extraordinary women who launched businesses later in life. They transformed challenges into opportunities and experiences into enterprises. Their stories will remind us that age is never a barrier to pursuing your dreams. But before we begin, let us pause for a moment of reflection and for prayer. Father, Lord, we want to thank you for the breath of life that you've given us. Thank you for everything that you have given us, even the things that we do not have, for you know best. We invite your presence as we're about to have this discussion and this session. Lord, bless the listeners and the viewers. Amen. Now, it is my absolute pleasure to have these three wonderful women on this panel. And I'm going to introduce each of them so that you can get to know who they are. So I have Lisa Heather Yard. She's the founder of List Value and another newly launched business. Her mission for List Value is to help women and young girls to reclaim their self-worth. And it was born out of her own courageous journey of resilience and empowerment. Miss Karen Tobier, an events management expert and cultural preservation advocate, whose ventures like Kai Kweol and City Consult reflect her passion for heritage and community development. And finally, Madonna Florenville, a dedicated educator, an advocate for youth development, whose transition into entrepreneurship with Florenvilla 758 is a testament to her unwavering commitment to service and innovation. Each of these women brings a unique and inspiring perspective to our discussion today. And I am so pleased that they agreed to be part of this discussion. Both Lisa and Madonna could not be physically here with us today, but they sent in their responses, which I have captured via video and will play after each question. Karen, thankfully, is joining us live from her office. But let's first start with who they are. You've heard a little snippet of their background, their professional background, but I think only the women themselves can clearly articulate who they are and what they do. So, my first question or my first prompt is for them to introduce themselves to you, our viewers and listeners, so that they can tell us a little bit about their journey, particularly into entrepreneurship at their age, and what inspired them to start their business later in life. I have Miss Lisa Yard as our first speaker, and I will play her response, followed by the response from Madonna, and then we will move on to Karen, who will join us live to respond to this question.
My name is Lisa Yard. I am the owner of two businesses. One is a coaching business called List Value. The other is taking care of the elderly called Caring Hands Elderly Caregiving Services. What inspired me to do the coaching business is because I am a survivor of domestic abuse for the past, for let's say 11 years. And through that, surviving that journey in my life, I realized that there are plenty of women out there, not excluding men actually, that cry for help, but not the help as a psychiatrist or a therapist would give, but somebody who would help them through their life's journey on simple matters, just on simple matters. For instance, how to say no, how not to feel guilty when you you do something that you really want to do, but nobody wants you to do it. And what really inspired me for the caregiving services came out of my mom, actually. Um, she was not an elderly, but when she got sick and taken her to the doctor, she passed at the doctor's office. And because of that, I really understood what it felt like losing a mom. So out of that, I decided, hey, on my bucket list, I'm going to go to school, do something that can help persons, especially persons that are aging and unable to take care of themselves the way that they ought to. And that's what inspired me to do my caregiving services.
Good afternoon to our esteemed panel and our distinguished guests. I am Madonna Florenville, and I'm delighted to be here with you today to share a little bit with you about my experience, my journey as a budding entrepreneur who started later in life. Let me begin by sharing with you a little bit about how my journey all began. So let me give you a brief description about Florence Villa 758. We, as I said before, do short-term rentals, and we are located in Babonneau. Our goal is to provide all of our guests with such a warm, inviting, and authentic experience that Florence Villa would naturally become their accommodation of choice anytime they desire a getaway. Now, previous to Florence Villa, I was an educator for 40 plus years. And even before Florence Villa was conceptualized, or even before I retired, I should say, I wanted to make sure that when I retire, I would not just be sitting at home watching TV and rocking on my rocking chair. I am one who likes to plan way ahead of time, and I knew that I did not want either to be at home, like I said, or dressing up to go to another business place and work for somebody else. What I love to do, apart from education, is to be at home. I love home. I love to decorate my space. I love to do both inside and outside. I love flowers and gardening. And I always had a long time dream of traveling, which I've done some traveling, but not like what I dreamt of as a little girl. I used to dream of traveling and meeting people from different countries and learning about their cultures, their life experiences, and so on. So I decided, well, one way of fulfilling that dream, which I've not totally given up on, but to realize this dream is to have people come over to my place. So why not have the Airbnb? And through that process, I would have others, people from different countries, come into my place where I could treat them nicely and just interact with them the same way I would have done if I had traveled. So this is how it was first conceptualized. Since retirement, I started together with my family. I presented my plans to my family, and long story short, they supported my dream and aspiration, and Florent Villa was started first with an apartment that's attached to my main house. My husband, who's into construction, built the apartment. I manage the nitty-gritties of it, dressing it up and, the furnishing and everything else that has to do with that. That is my part. And my adult daughter who lives with us, she helps with the marketing, the online part of it. We have two sons who are also very supportive and help with the marketing as well, but they don't live at home.
I'm not hearing you, Michelle.
Again, from Lisa and Madonna for sharing their responses to this question. We get to know a little bit, a deeper dive into their story. But let's hear from our third speaker, Karen, who is joining me live. Karen, can you tell us a bit about your story, and in response to the question, what really started this journey? What inspired you to start this business, especially at your age later in life?
Okay, so hi everyone. I think I will start first by saying I am a mother, a very proud mother of two handsome men, young men now, because they've grown. And I say this because part of the reason that I walked out of what was then considered a very cushy job in the tourism industry was because I had my last son. So roughly about 21 years ago, I left that lifestyle and I decided I was going to take a job that was paying less money, but the hours were regular. So the trade-off was that I would be able to work regular hours and just have time to spend with my son, because in the industry, I really did not have that time. And he was fairly young at the time. That was sort of a turning point. It was really a life-changing decision for me. So I started off working, and that worked for a while. I think that I was forced into entrepreneurship by COVID and what happened subsequent to COVID. So I worked with an attorney prior to COVID, and I really enjoy law. I love it. For me, it's a hobby. Same as I enjoy arts and and the arts and heritage studies. I've been doing that from since I've been a child, and I'm very, very attached to it, and I do all sorts of things in there. But in terms of work, I worked in the field of law for many years. And after COVID, the office did not really close, but some changes were made to the structure of the office. And so I found myself out of work. Um, and for me, that was a challenge because I realized at that point in time that in our small island, when you get to a certain age, you are considered to be old. And so people are hesitant about employing you because they see you as being old and ready to retire and all of those sorts of things. I mean, you can just well imagine that in the public service, I think retirement age is 55 years, which is not old at all, but we understand the psyche around this. And so I found myself out of work for a while, and I thought, but because of my skills, then people started to call. Karen, are you able to assist me to get this done or to get that done? And it was like, yeah, sure. And I was just doing these things pro bono, actually, until a friend of mine actually said to me, what is wrong with you? People don't work for free. You are out of a job, you have skills, and instead of monetizing that, you are just there doing all of these things for free, and people will keep coming to you because you're doing it for free. So I thought, oh, okay, that's where it's at. And yeah, so that was how I actually got into really setting up this small business that I call City Consult. It actually provides business administration support and paralegal services. And so I do a lot of freelance work for people, for attorneys on island. Um, and I have also very recently started to get requests from friends and other people off island who need support in St. Lucia on getting certain things done. Simple things like getting a birth certificate or something like that, which is more difficult for them because they are off island. So I've started getting those sort of requests for help. And so monetizing that is where I am at. So this is fairly new. Now, Kai Creole is a very different thing. Kai Creole actually started off with me just taking on one of my friends, my really close friends, used to do this event, Anumaje Dasi Shati Creole, in October as part of Creole Heritage Month. And sadly, he had cancer and he passed. And before he passed, he kind of made me promise that I would continue to do Chateau Creole, which is what it is now. And of course, I said yes, never with the intention of actually doing this on my own because I thought he was going to be there. And he passed. And when he passed, I had made that promise that I could not go back on. So I started, first couple of years, I did Chateau Creole. Part of Chateau Creole has an educational part of it, which teaches people how to read and write Creole. And so starting to do this in addition to doing the Creole song competition, I realized that there really was a dearth of Creole events, and the way in which people treat this language was really not the best. And so in addition to Shate Creole, Kai Creole has taken on a different life of its own. We now do Shate Creole. We do a poetry Creole spoken word for Nobel Laureate Month. We also do a Creole lecture, which is a purely academic Creole lecture, and oftentimes looks at topics that are impactful on the St. Lucian landscape and out of St. Lucia as well. But those lectures are delivered in Creole, which has never ever been done before. So Kai Creole started off taking on a life of its own, and I really want to see where that leads. But of course, I need to make money because the bills need to get paid, and so City Consult has grown out of that.
All right, so there you have it. So I'm taking notes as, of course, each of you give your responses. So we have three different reasons as to why each of you started your businesses at the stage that you were at. Um, and I realized that each person had a personal experience that led to the decision, whereas you were the
Mhm.
one who said you were forced into it. It was almost as if it wasn't your first choice, but because that was something you already were doing so well, you decided to monetize it. Um, I'm going to say that I don't really agree with you when you say you were forced into it, because there's one thing that I know. When you force something as a mom, I can tell you, when you force a child to do something, they're gonna drag their feet, they're gonna stamp their feet, they're gonna say, "Wait, mommy," they're gonna make all sorts of little tantrumy noises. But about is something that you do well and that you enjoy. It's just that you never saw yourself doing that as a actual career or profession. I don't really see it as you being forced to. I think it's an opportunity that you were shown what you could have been doing instead, and maybe what your calling truly is, as opposed to you being forced into it. So I think your experience with COVID just revealed something to you, and then you're just realizing this as in addition to persons reaffirming and saying, "Hey, you should be charging for this," because it means that people see value in what you do. It's great. Um, Lisa had a very harrowing experience. I mean, I could only imagine what that experience was like. Taking your mom to a doctor's office and having her pass away at the doctor's office. I cannot begin to think of what that was like, that experience was like. I experienced something very similar in my family, but it wasn't my mom, it was my uncle. And I was not present at the time. I was informed about it after the fact. But I understand in terms of the loss and the suddenness of it. I can understand that part. But again, it's her mom. It's the person that she didn't expect to walk out of the doctor's office without. You don't expect to walk out of the doctor's office without the person you walk in with. That's not something you are prepared for. So I could only imagine what that was like for her. But then she turned that into a catalyst, into motivation to start her own caregiving business for persons just like her mom who are ailing. So that was just a really bittersweet reason for Lisa to to start her business, and I commend her for wanting to take that personal experience and share that with others through her business. And with Madonna, she had given so many years of her life already to a different sector, and what she went into was totally far-fetched from what she was currently into for somewhat years. She went from education now into hospitality. And these are two variant industries. But although they are varying industries, she still allowed herself um, to be around people. And I think that's what she also liked doing as well, being around people. And the love for her home was what really led her to add on something to her home. So it's almost as if she she wanted to be where she loved, because there's no place better than home, but also run a business from home. So this is the typical or the ideal work from home business, where people bring their business to you in the form of an Airbnb business. So those of you who are running Airbnbs, you are masterful entrepreneurs. I mean, there is of course a lot of work involved in putting this business together, which of course I know nothing about because I'm not very familiar with that business, in terms of setting up the place, ensuring that it's maintained and up to standard. Especially during COVID times, persons had to be licensed and they had to make sure that their spaces met the standards in order to be COVID verified and certified. So I could only imagine what those were, the expenses that came along with it. And so I highly respect persons who opened up their homes or who built homes for the purpose of allowing visitors to come and experience our beautiful, beautiful island. It is a wonderful industry to go into. Um, so I really appreciate each of you for the stories that you shared in terms of what started this. So it segues really nice into the follow-up question, which is we got a bit of, the personal experience of what led you to pursue the path. But now the follow-up question is, how has this now evolved since it first began? Because we know where you started, we know why you started. But the next question is, how has the purpose evolved since you all began? So I'm going to start again with Lisa. I'm going to play her recording, then Madonna, and then finally we will hear from Karen. So here is Lisa's response to this question.
Domestic abuse. And that's what led me to do coaching. I started out helping women recognize their needs, some personal needs that they wasn't aware of, making them more aware of domestic abuse and violence. And through that experience, being around more women, being around more victims and survivors, as I said, not excluding men, it also opened a particular doorway for me that led me now to study psychology, which also helped me to understand certain aspects of the human mind. And it did not limit me to the fact that, hey, psychology is all about controlling, but it also led me to the fact that psychology, when you really understand the human mind, it also enables you to navigate properly through your own life. So hearing the stories of those women, those persons out there that had no hope, gave me a better understanding, gave me more hope now to, or I would say, to increase my knowledge in that field of domestic abuse, increase my knowledge in the coaching aspect. And what inspired me about doing I wouldn't say doing, but pursuing the journey of caring for the elderly. As I said, my mom was sick, brought her to the doctor, she passed away in the office. Very tragic. But it taught me one thing in life. It taught me the value of persons around you. It taught me the value of the time that we spend with each other. Yes, I cried my eyes out, but guess what? It opened my eyes to a very new beginning. It opened my eyes to the fact that, hey, I'm not too old to do something about it. Life will always be life, no matter what. But it also helps me to understand, like when you meet different elderly and you have conversations with them, they all say the same thing to me. Cherish the little time that you have. Don't take anything for granted. And I can put that also in my coaching business. The little time that I have as a person helping women and young girls, and as I always say, not excluding the men, go through their little personal journeys, little navigation for life. I take a cue from every one of them. Time is short. Time is very, very precious. Be purposely and deliberately mindful of how you do that. And yes, that is my motivation, my purpose, and it's mostly time. Time is my motivation and purpose.
Since we started, we've had visitors from local, regional, international countries. I could name a few. Most of our guests have been from the UK. Many have been from the United States, Canada. We've had from Canada, from as far as Nigeria. Our latest visitor was from Malta. In the Caribbean, we've had visitors, most of them from Barbados. We've had from Dominica, Grenada, not St. Vincent, but Trinidad and Tobago and Martinique. And of course, we've had local visitors as well. One of the things that have inspired us to grow our business is the fact that people love our hospitality here, and they love the serenity of the place, the lush green environment, the quietness in the area, and the warmth of our family. Now, there are visitors who they like the interaction, but there are those who we notice through our conversations with them would prefer that they were more on their own rather than being attached to our main house. So we decided that our first home, we would transform it into an Airbnb so that it would be a standalone house where those who require more privacy would be able to use this place. So we prepared this place, a 2-bedroom home, and it is just about a minute walk from the main house. And they have made many guests who prefer being there on their own. They still interact with us, but they have their full privacy. And then just earlier this year, we thought of guests. There have been guests who they do not want a full house, neither fully furnished apartment, but they just want a place to rest their heads and be on their way. Some of them just want to, or some of them are just overnighted in St. Lucia and moving on, and others are on a tight budget. So we have a spare room in our house and a bathroom that's adjoined to it. We said, why not turn that into another unit? So we decided to, prepare it for that purpose. And so we have unit 3. So there are 3 units now. One is the apartment that's attached to our main house. The other one is the standalone house. And unit 3, which has become very popular, is the shared space where we have just a bedroom and a bathroom. No kitchen there. They know that from off the bat that there's no kitchen, but in that room, in that bedroom, we have a mini refrigerator, a microwave, an electric kettle, a TV. So they're okay with this. Now, along with the accommodation, we have had guests who've been here on retreats. So my son, one of my sons does retreats. And during that time, he would have a group of guests come over. They would do their fitness activities at home. They would tour the property, because we are at Florent Villa 5-8, we are known for all kinds of fruits at different times, different seasons. The last time I checked, I counted about 25 or more different types of fruits. So they are able to go on property, sample what we have, bring the fruits into our homes, and eat it straight from the tree, or make fruit juice or punch, drink jelly coconuts from the tree. So they get an authentic experience of what it is to be at Florent Villa. Sometimes we roast cashew nuts, and they get to participate in that. We are presently working on a nature trail that those who do not really want to do exercises with much exertion, they can do that nature trail walk on property. It's not quite finished yet, but we are working on it. We also organize for those who are more adventurous and they want to do climb the pitons, or they want to do the waterfalls, they want to, really experience St. Lucia at its best in the natural environment. We organize this for them as well. So we are growing and evolving, and yes, we are on our way.
All right, so there you have it. So Lisa and Anna shared how their businesses have evolved. So what about you, Karen?
Well, I don't think that I have quite arrived at where our two other panelists are as yet. This is still fairly new. Like I said, Kai Creole has grown its own legs and is doing its own thing. Quite honestly, Kai Creole is evolving, and I keep adding events to Kai Creole because there is this need for Creole activities and events. So every time I do something, somebody will say, oh, why don't you think of doing this instead? And why don't you think of doing that instead? So Kai Creole has evolved quite a lot over the past 7 years in which I have been involved in it. But City Consults, which is where I am trying to stress on now and grow, is fairly new. I now do offer freelance paralegal services to 3 attorneys. And so I have grown from the one that I started with. I also do small uh, projects and jobs for individuals. And like I said, more recently, I have been asked by some of my friends off island in the diaspora to help them organize. And sometimes for us, it's something simple, but because they are off island, it can be a really strenuous thing. So somebody might call me and say, well, and again, it's almost as if these things are just taking on their own lives. So somebody might call and say, Karen, I need a birth certificate, but I really don't know how to even begin to go about it because I am off island. And I say, okay, that's a fairly simple process. So just send me the information and I'll get it for you. And from that, it's been, okay, how much does it cost? And I'm like, oh, that's like about $8 or something like that. So no cost. No, it cannot be no cost. It's going to take your time. So how much would you charge me? And I now have to sometimes stop and say, oh, okay, now this is actually work and this is not just a friendly interaction, even if it is, and put a cost on it. So City Consult is evolving in that way. It is growing, and I am realizing, like you said, Michelle, that there is value to what I do. And even when I have a couple of friends, big sisters as I call them, who have been telling me for years that I have been giving away my intellectual property because as an events planner, somebody would call and say, Karen, I want to do this, and how can I do that? And I would just, off the top of my head, I would take you through from the beginning of the event to the end, so you would know everything to do in between. And I am realizing that that is really not the way to go, because if you go to somebody else for that, that is actually a consultation that you will get charged for. So it's a pulling back on myself with my very open and easy way of helping everybody, but also understanding that there is value to what I do, and to be now being in a position where I have to put a value to it and charge accordingly. So evolving slowly, growing very slowly, but this is still very, very new because, as I said, it actually started off maybe after we got over COVID, which would have been in 2021, 2022, thereabouts, that I even considered doing this. So I would say, really and truly, I've been really looking at City Consult as a business, maybe over the past year or two. So very slowly we are shaping into what I actually want to do and how I see this progressing and where I want to take it. I'm doing a lot of learning on the job, which is very different to when you're doing learning on the job in an organization. My experience is extensive because, like I said, I've worked in the tourism industry. I've been a training facilitator. I do events. I do paralegal services. So there is so much that I do, and so now it is, what do I want to concentrate on, and offer as a service that is charged. And sometimes the lines get blurred for me because I am still finding this niche that I want city councils to reside in.
Okay. So I hear what you're saying, and a number of things have actually jumped out at me that I wanted to share with you. So the first thing is, in a sense, city consult is what you make of it, but you are the one who's evolving. So we're circling right back to you. You're the one who's actually evolving, because you are providing services without knowing that you are providing services. And you've been doing this. And I think a lot of us do that a lot because, of course, someone asks us a question. And because we know the answer, if they ask us, we volunteer the answer. Um, but then there's this really smart person, really intuitive person who decided, hey, I could charge for that. And that person now provides a service, a professional service where they specialize in providing advice, and ascertaining what the person needs to do and should do. And then, of course, this person does this and they accomplish that. So as a result, that's considered a consultation, as you rightly said. So
Mhm.
you have actually been consulting your entire life. You just didn't know it. Um,
Exactly.
but the thing is now, because you have so much time on your hands and you're now trying to find a way to monetize whatever it is that you do, you can basically pick anything that you want to do because of your extensive knowledge, as you rightly said. But the goal is finding, where is the demand?
Yes.
Where's that niche? Where's the demand for what it is that you're doing? And I think you found it. You found it because you have, based on what you've said, you've encountered people who are willing to pay for what you're doing because they know you. You have a reputation. You are very reliable. So they will depend on you and they will pay you for your services to get this done. So I really commend you for being able to realize that and now embrace it. So you said you're learning on the job. I think it's called learning as you go. You're learning as you go because you're realizing, but hey, but wait a minute. Yes, a birth certificate costs $8, but then walking there, walking back, taking bus to go there. I mean, if you're mobile, that's gas. If you're basically taking note of all of these little things, you're doing for someone that somebody would pay hundreds
Yes.
of dollars to somebody else to get done, and you're doing it for free.
Mm-hmm.
You just say, hey, send me the cost. So basically, you've been doing pro bono work for a number of years. So you specialize in pro bono.
Yes, and that is so true, Michelle, because especially on the events level. So one of the things that I noticed about myself, which was a very rude awakening for me, that people would call me about events because they wanted to plan something. So they would call me to get the idea from me, to get the know-how from me, and then they would hire somebody else to actually do the job. And when they got into trouble, they would come back to me to ask me how to solve the problem that the event was having, but they were paying somebody else to do it. And that happened to me quite a number of times until one day I was like, what exactly is going on there? So now I don't do that anymore. If you want me to do an event for you, hire me. If you don't want me to do the event for you, that's all right. Go to the person that you want to pay, who will give you the idea of how to do it, who will tell you how to execute it, and who will execute it for you. I'm happy not being a part of it at all and not getting the money for it. That's all right.
Okay, now those of you who see me nodding, um, this is, I'm nodding because I've experienced the very same thing and I've been experiencing for 6 years. Yeah, I've been experiencing that for 6 years in what I do, and now I have put my foot down. I've literally put my
Mhm.
foot down. I'm saying I'm not doing this anymore. I worked for free. I have not been paid for what I do. God alone knows how I've been able to pay the bills. God alone knows. But I have put my foot down. And I really commend you, Karen. And the thing about it is they know that you are good. They
Yes,
know that you know what it is that you're talking about. You're experienced, you have the knowledge, you have the experience, you have the certifications, you have the backing to prove it. So they know you are reputable. But because they know you, they will come with a smile.
mm-hmm.
They will come as a friend. And they will say, hey, I have this and whatever. And the thing about it is that, and I think we all have a little bit about it, a little bit in us, where we have this urge to want to help. So sometimes we unknowingly start to open our mouths to present a solution. And that's
Yep,
just the good nature in us. Um, and we're all guilty of that at some point in our lives. Let me just say hello to Mylika, who's watching and listening. Welcome, Mylika. Thank you for watching. Mylika can also tell you she has experienced the very same thing as well. So we've all experienced a level of persons coming to us for information and paying someone else to actually get it done.
that's
And
right.
we have gone through it. And so we now have to sort of set up boundaries. Unfortunately, it has arrived at this point where we have to set up boundaries, even for people who are our friends, and say, you're my friend, but this is our business. There are certain things that, of course, we have the leeway of deciding, I can do this for you because I know you. But when it comes to this, I'm sorry, this is where I should say this is where the timer starts ticking. Yeah, whether
Mm-hmm.
you get paid per hour or whatever the case may be. So we have to make that decision and say, now is the time for us to say, pay me. Yeah, pay me. Another thing that you said regarding Kai Creole, um, I have seen Kai Creole all over social media. That is how I learned about it, all over social media. I came across one of your performers because he had shared it on his wall, and I saw it, and I'm like, "Whoa, that's amazing!" And I said, "Okay, Shate Creole, let me see what that's about." And I went back to look for it, and I realized you were the one behind it. I'm like, all this time I didn't know. I mean, what is going on here? So it's almost as if, and when you said it has legs of its own, that's what you're basically talking about, because people know about it. They sometimes they attend it and they talk about it, but knowing the person behind it, sometimes they lose track of who that is, because the event has a mind of its own, it has a face of its own, it has a nature of its own. And the people who perform also give it a face and give it a name and give it a reputation, so that when they come down to who is the person behind Shate Creole, it's this wonderful young lady who's still finding herself. This wonderful young lady with the wealth of knowledge that has finally come into her own and is embracing who she really is. Karen, welcome to the world of entrepreneurship. Welcome, 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 welcome. Um, so I think the chat is going off. I'm gonna be putting the comments there. Friends and family never want to pay for your service. Karen, what do you say to that one?
That is true, but I also think it is because of the way in which we interact with our friends and family. It is often very difficult for business people to charge a family member for something because that's your family. And
Mm-hmm.
similarly, because of the give and take relationship that you have with friends, um, you may not necessarily want to charge, but a friend who understands your business will volunteer to pay. And so I always say that we have a lot of people who are acquaintances. We mistake acquaintances with
Right.
friendship
Mm-hmm.
because genuine friends will pay for your service. They will not be asking you for a discount. They will understand. And let me just demonstrate this. I have this friend right now. She lives in Canada. We've been friends from school. She asked me to get something done for her, and I said, not a problem. She said, how much? And I said, I'm not charging you for doing this. She says, Karen, you're not going to charge me, but how much is it going to cost? I said, well, it's just a few dollars. That's all right. I'm not going to charge you for doing this. So she says, okay, fine. I know you won't take my money. But again, because there are a number of layers to Karen, I have a personal charity that I do every year where I give away care bags. I ask my friends to put care bags together for ladies. So it is a care bag with hygiene products for ladies. And I normally would find a community or some people, ladies and girls who are in need, and give them a care bag. She says, if
And what
I
is the
can,
name of this initiative?
it is called just Karen's Care Bags. It's called the Care Bags Initiative. It really is it's a very personal thing to me that
Number
came from
three.
that experience.
Number three. I'm counting them. Number three.
That one is charity, girl. If you have to count, let me tell you, there's a lot to count. That one is a very personal one. And so she said to me, since
That's your CSR, Karen. That's your CSR.
yes, since I
That's your
can't,
CSR. Yeah.
right. She said, since I can't pay you, I will make a personal donation to this initiative so that I won't pay you, I can't pay you, but I will do that. And I think based on the relationship that you have, a genuine friend will pay if they know that this is what you are doing for your as your means of income.
Mm-hmm.
And family, it really is a two-way street. Oftentimes it is because as an entrepreneur, you feel guilty about charging your family for something. So you find it difficult to tell them about it. But if this person understands that this is what your income stream is, then you need to be compensated in much the same way that if they had gone to somebody else, they would compensate that person. So I think sometimes that line is a little blurred, and so for me it's not necessarily that they don't want to pay. It is how do we approach that conversation that we often do not want to have, to say, okay, fine, I'm doing this and this is how much it costs, so you need to pay me. I think sometimes as an entrepreneur it is a difficult conversation to have, and based on how you have that conversation, the relationship can change. So you are afraid to have that conversation. And I think that that's in a lot of instances, that's what it is. I have not really had that sort of experience as yet. So maybe when I get to it, like I said, that one that I just said is a small one. So maybe in the future I might have to have that conversation. But I think that as an entrepreneur, you should not be afraid to have that conversation, so that and to have it upfront so that people know. Um, and not wait until the thing is done and then say, well, you owe me X amount of money. Somebody comes to you to do a job, then they need to understand that it is a job, and the
Right.
approach needs to be that way. And the approach needs to be that way. So you need to be the professional so that the person or the family member or the friend that you are dealing with understands that you are the professional in that area. That's another area too. But I think sometimes when we deal with family and friends, we deal with it in a casual way because we know they are family and friends. And we do not, it is not the professional that who is operating there, it is the family member. And so if you don't blur those lines, I think that conversation can be different.
I definitely agree with you 100%. And I do also agree with you when you consider the approach that you take when having that conversation. Um, I am very guilty of what you said regarding, I wouldn't say afraid to ask persons to pay, but
Mhm.
it's not something that is on the forefront of my mind. That's not the kind of person that I am. And I think persons take advantage of that. You have been very fortunate to have persons that are your friends, your genuine friends, who will offer to pay you and will have this conversation with you and say, I need to pay you because this is your income generator. But there are persons who are opportunists, and all they care about is getting their stuff done. Whether it is it takes a little out of you or a lot out of you, that's secondary. Their priority is getting their stuff done. So kudos to the friend who is a friend to you. But most of the time most of the times, us in the small business community are surrounded by opportunists, people who want us to do things for them and they do not want to pay. Or if
Oh,
we say that they need to pay, they're going to ask for a discount, or they will challenge us and say, so much? Why does it
yeah,
cost that much? If it was the case, you could have been able to do it yourself, but you came to me. Um, but you will face this. I'm not saying that because of the clientele that you're going to interact with, it's a guarantee, but you may face it from time to time. It is a reality in the small business community. It is a
you
reality.
you would remember that earlier on I said that I have realized that that is what is happening, and so I stopped it, especially with events. I am no longer telling people how to run an event and what to
An
do.
event
If
is
you
a big business, eh? It is.
it is. And so if you come to me on that level, so I think as an entrepreneur, you need to know where to draw the line, and you need to know when it happens. Right now, anybody comes, there are certain conversations that I am just not having. So we're not going to, if you are not going to pay me, we're not having this conversation. And if you are offended, that's okay. I will deal with the offense and we will see if we can patch up our personal relationship. But this is what it is. So I am happy that I am in a position where I can have these conversations, and a lot of people cannot have these conversations, and maybe it is because of the experiences that I have had in the world of work, where I am I have always had to make decisions like that because I have worked in management for a while. So making tough decisions and sticking to it and having those tough conversations, I am no stranger to that. And so
Mhm.
when I realized that if I actually wanted to do this as a business, my approach needed to be different. I am very prepared to have the conversations now. And maybe for me that is one of the things that will work. And so I'm not saying that people have not taken advantage of me, because they have, very, very much so, and they continue to try to do. But I am teaching myself to have those conversations, not to get there anymore, because I have been there, and I don't want to go there anymore. So I'm teaching myself to have these tough conversations.
Thank you for sharing that, Karen. And I think I need a few lessons from you as well, because I'm not as tough as I seem. I'm tough with my children, but when it comes to business, I'm a little softy. So I think I need to have some lessons. My mentor, was Anita. She was my mentor. She was the one
Mhm.
that really toughened me up and put sense in my head when I needed it. So she was the one that would really be, the person I would call upon or speak to, and she would advise me. But now that she's gone, I don't have that, that tough voice that I need. That tough love that I need. I don't have that. So I would really appreciate taking a page from your book, Karen, on how to deal with those situations. I would be very appreciative. But we're moving on to our next question. And this is a question that I really would like you to think long and hard about before you respond. Of course, we have the recordings. We have Lisa and Madonna who's going to respond first. So it'll give you a bit of time, to think of how you'd like to approach that question. But the question is about challenges. What challenges have you faced starting or growing a business as a mature entrepreneur? Whether any of these were age related, and how did you navigate them? Because of course, this is a 50 plus panel, and we're talking to persons who are either in business or starting a business later in life, and whether age is a factor. So I'm gonna start with Lisa to hear what she had to say on the topic of age and what challenges that she faced. So let's hear what her response was.
My unique challenges for all the entrepreneurs. Well, for me, it was social media number one. Social media is number one for sure. Like I had to learn a lot, and not just the basics, but try to understand the little technicalities that come in social media. Number two was, I guess, everybody's biggest issue, financing. And I still do have some issues with the financing part because of the way that my business is structured. Not many people on the island is all about coaching. So it poses some challenges for me. I'm not being easily recognized, but that's okay. It's a gift that keeps on giving. I look at it. For the elderly part, as an older person, the unique challenges I have is the fact that they are not as much qualified persons in the business, in terms of, yes, they do the elderly course, but to me, being in with the elderly, there's so much more than just doing the basics, changing, bathing, dressing. There's so much that you can learn when you go deeper into it. I have a health aid certificate, and out of that, I branched into elderly care. And I found that being a health aid assisted me even greater in doing elderly care than just going to do the elderly care services. I have a great understanding of what it entails, not just to take the care of the elderly, but persons who have little minor health issues, little problems that can aid me. So my unique challenges would be, for this one, as I said, persons that are not really qualified in that area that do it. Some say it's for the love of doing it. Some say that's all they have, they can do. But the challenges are great. They don't pay as much as they don't pay. The services are not rendered the way that a qualified caregiver would really work for. So I would say pricing for both aspects is my unique challenger for now.
Okay, so that was Lisa's contribution to that question, was financing, and also persons who were not as qualified claiming that they do it because because they love it, but they're not really qualified. So that was putting a damper on her, because of course you have persons who say they do it because they love it and they're not qualified, and their fee may be a lot lower than someone who is qualified, and that is putting a damper on someone who can actually provide a more reputable service, a more reliable service, because that person knows exactly what they're doing. And this happens in all industries, not just in the health industry, where a person say, I can do this so well. Just because you like it doesn't mean that you're qualified to do it. Whereas there's somebody who is specialized in the field, who has the qualifications to do that, and they're doing it as a business. They're charging a fee, but because you may charge, let's say, $100 or $200 less, then persons would go to that one rather than the one who is qualified. So persons actually lose business that way as well. So usually in a case like that, there's what you call there's no regulatory there's no regulatory mandate for things like that. It happens in all levels of competition. But I think if there was, when it comes to the health industry, however, things are done a little differently. You need to be qualified for you to practice on someone. But in terms of elderly care, I think that should be, the onus should be on the family who is soliciting the care from that person, to ensure that that person is qualified, that person is certified, and that person has whatever skills required and resources required in order for them to provide the care to their elderly family member. Because at the end of the day, this is the person spending the majority of the hours, the majority of the day with your loved one, and you're entrusting your loved one to this person or to those people. So ensure that the right steps are taken in order to select the right persons. But let's hear what Madonna had to say to this question.
As an entrepreneur over 50, I've had some challenges and some pretty unique terrain to maneuver myself through. One of the main challenges for me after I started the business was marketing. Now, these days, if you're not marketing online, you're not going anywhere in a hurry. So I had to force myself to learn. Not that I am against learning, but I find it a little more challenging. The young people are more with it. They grow up with the digital marketing and online business mind. So it's easier for them to maneuver themselves. But yes, I've had that challenge. I want to advertise my business and get bookings online, but the nitty-gritties of it is quite a challenge for me. But I'm not deterred. I'm still learning. But thankfully, I have my daughter and my children, my sons, who are assisting so much in that area. So digital marketing, slowly but surely, I'm doing a little something, but I'm really dependent on them for that. So it's important to have that kind of support because you cannot do everything on your own. Another challenge that I have had was to really understand how to manage and how to run a business because, as I said, I have been an educator in the schools as a teacher and as a former principal. I've never really done formal business management. So I took the opportunity after I registered the business with SEDU. They offer courses for businesses that are startups and so on. So I registered with them and I did the course that they offered. When I completed that course, I got another opportunity to do a course with SLUDTERA under the management of Mrs. Michelle Samuel, and that was a great course that further gave me some tools and skills necessary for the business. Then came the Jeunesse program for businesses, sponsored by the government of St. Lucia and the Taiwanese, and I grabbed onto that as well. So I've been keeping myself busy learning. I also do a lot of research on YouTube. YouTube has become one of my best friends. There's so much to learn on YouTube, everything you can imagine and think of. On Instagram, social media really teaches you a lot if you want to learn. Yes, so it's not all bad, it's what you put your mind to. Even TikTok, there's so much to learn. So I'm continuing to learn the things I need to do, what I need to improve on. My latest collaboration is with Community Tourism, the agency responsible for community tourism. I have reached out to them and they've been very supportive. They offer courses, they offer guidelines, they offer support in different ways. So yes, I'm in the process and continuing to work with Community Tourism, the agency, to help me out to get better in my business. When it comes to age, I was, how they say, rudely awakened. When I applied, the government was offering grants, and I had used all of my family's savings and resources to get the business going. It's very expensive to run an accommodation business, especially if you want to do it well and if you want to make your visitors comfortable. So, and at my age, I didn't want a hefty loan. This is not time for a loan. So I knew the government was offering grants to entrepreneurs that are starting small businesses. So I said, why not? I contacted the Ministry of Commerce under SEDU, and I said I was interested in applying only to find out that I would not be able to get the grant funding that they were offering, the MSME grant, because I was over 60. To say that I was disappointed is an understatement, because here I am, a St. Lucian, with experience and with the willingness to make a difference in my country at another level. So why should I be disqualified from getting some assistance in terms of grant if I am showing that I'm willing, I'm committed, and this business that I'm doing is a nice way of giving back to my community and country?
So there you have it. The challenge is okay, Karen. So let's hear from you.
Challenges. Finance, of course, is a major challenge. And like Florentina just said, getting loans at this point in time in your life is a challenge. The banks will look at you because you have no real capital to invest in. And sometimes it is not. So let's look at the government grants and stuff like that. Sometimes it is just the people who are actually administering rather than the policy. So the policy may not be that if you're over 16, you will not get the loan. But the people who are managing might be looking at you and saying, at 60 years old, well, I'm going to give you that. What are you going to do with it? And that is based on the mentality that we have that at that age you are old. And you are considered to be old. So sometimes when I tell people my age, they tell me, no, that's not true, because people don't consider me to be old. But if I say my age, now that's a different level. You are that old? That's the response. So I'm going around business and I'm fine. And everybody's good. And then somebody says, Karen, what's your age? And I say my age. And the response is, you're so old. And I laugh and I say, well, no, you don't look that old. You don't look old at all. I get those responses. And I find it really curious that this is the response to the age number and not the person. So there is the ageism is a very real factor in this community that we live in. So yes, age is a factor, financing is a factor, and the other factor for me, one of the challenges, and I still have that challenge, is value and pricing. How do I price what the what I am offering? Michelle, can you give me like just 1 minute, please?
Sure, not a problem.
All right.
Okay, so we have heard from Lisa. We've heard from Madonna. Madonna gave a very this one was heavy for me because the MSME loan grant facility was supposed to be only out for those persons who would not have qualified for for the year programs, and a lot of the persons are saying that okay, so after 35 all opportunities finish, like
Yes.
that's basically what you hear. And we have persons who are going into retirement age, they still need to earn an income because bills don't stop when you retire. So you want to go into something that can still generate an income for you, and the opportunities that are available for you would allow you to do that does not cater to you at your age. And of course, there's this saying that you can't please everyone. But for somebody, and I understand where Madonna is coming from, for all of the years of service that she's given, for her not to be interested for that opportunity is a slap in the face. And I understand where she's coming from, but I also understand the other side of things, where there has to be a cap. There has to be a point where they draw the line and say, when you get to this point, I mean, how long? Because I mean, 30% is loan. depending on what it is that you want to do, and depending on how long it is that you want to take back, what is the risk of me taking on you with this loan that you'll be able to pay this back, seeing your age. We don't know how long you live for. I mean, that's the truth about it. We don't know how long you live for. And in terms of getting that money's back, aside from you, who else would be able to guarantee that this can be paid? If you're the sole person that is bringing in the revenue, or sole person generating the income, and there's no backup to that, there's no collateral to that, there's nothing that you can bring to the table, it's going to be a challenge. Yes, Karen, you want to say something?
So I think that whilst that is true, that putting a cap on, if you are advertising something like that, and you know that the policy is that if you are over a certain age, that it's going to be difficult or whatever, you need to be upfront and say so. That's number one, because then you don't waste my time and you don't waste your time, because that MSME loan process is a long one. The forms are very exacting and you need to fill up all of them. I decided from early o'clock that I was not even going to bother with that.
Oh, okay.
I just thought that because I know of this ageism thing in St. Lucia, it just put me off a lot of things. But running a business is a business, and if for Madonna she would get that response from a business that is clearly almost funding itself already, you can imagine if somebody like me, who's just starting off, decides that I'm going to apply for that. It ain't happening. It's just not happening. And so financing is one of those things for entrepreneurs in St. Lucia that is difficult. I heard Lisa, is it, when she was speaking about qualifications and people who are qualified to do things. That's another challenge for me. In the field of events, in St. Lucia, everybody is an events planner. Everybody and their man is an events planner. If you can string two balloons together, that makes you an events planner. So you can decorate, you can put up a string of balloons in a corner, you immediately become an events planner. But an events planner and manager is something that takes a lot of training. Now you're speaking about risk management, you're speaking about financial management, you're speaking about human resource management, because events can be huge. And so and that was why I was saying earlier on, Michelle, when I said I'm at the point where I'm just not taking this on. Because if you decide that you are going to hire the person who is stringing up the balloons to manage your events, to manage your finances, to manage that, and when you get in problems, you're going to come back to me, I don't want it. And it's a conversation that we have been having as events people in St. Lucia. It is a conversation that we have been having amongst ourselves. And I have said, maybe one of the things that we need to do is to establish some sort of organization. And if you are not qualified, you can't fall in there. I don't know if you remember, some years ago, there was an event where Morgan Bay is, where I've forgotten the name of what it used to be, something park. And there was an event in there and Salmons Park, and somebody got electrocuted. Yeah. And when I say that planning an event and managing an event has a lot of different things, that's one of them. Because clearly whoever was doing this at the time was not very cognizant of electricity and water and how you run their lines and where you put them and the reaction of people after they have drank and all of this, what can clearly happen. All of these things are things that an events planner is looking at when you're putting an event together. So if you are going to just come because you want to have a party and you say, Corinne, how do I have a party for my birthday? Buy a cake, buy 2 bottles of Heineken, and drink it with your friends. That's your event, and that's where you want to be. That's fine. Now, if you're talking about managing carnival, managing one of those things, and you want to pick my brain on this, I am not giving you that information for free because I have done it already and I've done it too many times. At this point in time, if you're coming to me, come prepared with your check. If you cannot do that, do not come. For me, that's a challenge. I still have that challenge because I have been so used to doing it for free that people still believe that I should do it for free.
Wow.
And so I am having to have this conversation, and somebody says something like, just that I ask you and you cannot answer me. But I'm just looking in this. My face is very expressive. You would know. So
Mm.
looking at you like, yeah, that's all right. So that is an issue. Um, Age is definitely a factor, definitely. But I think as an entrepreneur, well, at least for me, my approach is I have gone into this because I recognize that getting a job was difficult. I
Right.
now I now have a taste of operating independently, and I have recognized that I love being able to operate independently, manage my own time, bring in my own thing, and so my approach now is I am going to make this work. And even if you are going to come, if you come into me to offer me a 9 to 5 job, I'm not sure that at this point I will even accept that or I even want to consider it because I am now used to, not used, but I appreciate being able to manage my time and make my own decisions without somebody looking over my shoulder. So
Right.
that is for me a plus. But these are my things, and maybe one of my greatest things is what I said when I said about putting a value on what I do. I am
Mm-hmm.
having a huge challenge with valuing or or charging for what I am doing. Because sometimes somebody says to me, if I hire you to do this, how much will you charge me? And I am literally stumped
Hmm.
because I do not know how to respond because maybe it was not something that I had even thought of charging for until I am actually asked the question and say, Aaron, how much do you charge for doing this? And I'm like, let me get back to you on that because I am
Actually,
literally,
that is the best response to give, especially when you're either unsure or you've
yeah,
never considered it. The
that's
best
right.
response to give is, okay, well, I will have to, review everything that you shared and whatnot, and I will get back to you.
Right.
And yeah, you go back, you do your research, you crunch some numbers together, what that would take out of you, your labor and all of that, and then you go back with a cost and say, hey, there's my quote, and this quote is valid for however long a period of time. That's my quote, and let the person mull it over and say, okay, I agree. Then there we go.
Yeah, yeah, but that is a huge thing. I mean, even if Kai Creole and managing those Creole activities, they are. I tell people oftentimes that Creole is not sexy in Saint Lucia. If I say I'm having an event on the beach with 5 bikini girls, I will get a lot of money. But
One lakh.
if I am having an event where I would like mature people to come in and have a sit down and enjoy something like that, then people start to tell you about their budget and da da da. The same person who's telling you about the budget and all of that, approach them with an event where they see an opportunity for nakedness and they will find the money.
And they will
So
find the money. And that is
yes,
unfortunate. That is unfortunate in our society today. So I
right.
think in this case, what we need to look at is who are we catering to and catering for? Who
That
is our audience and who's our clientele? There needs to be a definite segmentation here in terms of right now, based on who you are and especially your values as well. Your values also dictate what you get into and what type of work that you do. Because there are sometimes persons would bring work to you not because you don't know how to value it, because it goes against who you are, your values as a person. You will actually turn that job down. And this is something that I have done as well because I'm a Seventh day Adventist. And there are certain projects I will not enter into. Take, for example, in the entrepreneurial world, there is Startup Weekend. This is an example. Startup
mhm.
Weekend is where you have Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Persons, engaged in a boot camp for those 3 days, and then there's pitching towards the end of it. Startup Weekend is not something that I can participate in because it includes
Your
Saturday
family.
and Sabbath,
Mhm.
and I
Mhm.
will not enter into it. There are just some projects you have to say no to. Likewise, there are some projects that take place after sundown on a Friday. So Friday night events, you will not see me
Mm-hmm.
participate. Neither will I promote it because it goes against my values and my beliefs. So this is who I am. So there are certain things that you have to sort of choose and take because of your values. Some things you have to do because you realize it is not appropriate, because you know what it will bring to you at your doorstep, and it will have you second guessing yourself and wondering, what did I get myself into at the end of it? And
Mm-hmm.
also looking at the type of events that you should be making. So maybe, Karen, because I mean, you piqued my interest right away, and you've picked it in such a way that I now want to do stuff with you that are for mature audiences, not mature in terms of X-rated, mature for mature people. Okay,
That's that.
mature, understand the difference, people. So I am definitely looking to do some things with you and also with this young lady who is in the chat, Malika,
Malika.
who, yes, because Malika has the space and Karen, you have the brains to put the stuff together. So I'm thinking we should get together and do something. What do you think? What do you what
That's
do you
it.
think?
That's intriguing.
Yes, it does. So I have just one more question because, of course, in the interest of time, we just have one more question that I'm going to ask, and then we'll close from there. And this question is in relation to, um, you know, the, you know what I think I will do. I will actually do a separate. I think this is a two-part type of session. I think we'll do a separate session where we'll cover some other questions, because we have a slew of questions that I wanted to cover and your responses, and I want people to hear what you ladies have to say, because it's not a common conversation that is had. So I think I will schedule a part two of this where
Mm-hmm.
we can deal with the other questions, that are going to be asked. So we're gonna close here. We're gonna close, and I'm gonna put a plug and say we're gonna have a part two. So guys, so those of you who are watching, who are listening, we're going to have a part two of this session later down the line. Please stay tuned to our social media pages to know when that is going to be. Of course, it has to be convenient to Karen for her time. So I will connect with Karen off camera, and we can decide when we can do a part two of this session. So if you would like to view part two, of course, please let us know, and you will be the first one to know when that is. Um, and of course, we will publish that when the time comes. So again, Karen, I want to say thank you so much for
That's an
joining
opportunity.
the panel. Thank you so much. We have another lady, Patricia. She's an over 50 as well. Patricia, thank you so much for watching and listening. So, Karen, I'm going to allow you to say your final words before we close, and then we will shut this down.
Thank you so very much for allowing me to share some of my experiences on this panel, and to anybody who is actually out there and listening and taking in what we have been saying and discussing. I think my parting words would be to encourage you to pursue what you love, and when you decide that is what you want to do, that you do it wholeheartedly. And I am saying this based on my own experience, because if I had pursued this when I wanted to do it, I would have started on this journey a lot earlier. But I procrastinated a lot until I was in a space where I needed to actually walk the walk that I am doing now. So if you want to pursue entrepreneurship, think of it seriously, decide on what you want to do, and go with it. Take that step, and do not take the step in a half-hearted manner, but take the step in a manner that tells you that that is where you want to walk. And remember that walking means that you are taking one step at a time. One of my favorite quotes that I say to people when they ask me questions and I am speaking to them or coaching somebody on something, I always say, or somebody approaches me with an issue, I always say, you eat the elephant one bite at a time. So yes, you see this huge thing in front of you. You cannot tackle everything. One at a time, one bit at a time, one step at a time, one bite at a time. is the way to approach any challenge that you have. And so step into this world with positivity, because there is so much there that you can explore, and that that you can bring to yourself, that brings you joy in what you do. Because of course, this saying that says when you do something that you love is not work, it really is true. So step into that world if that is where you want to be, but be sure that when you step in, that that's where you want to go, and keep the walk.
Karen, thank you so much for being here with us, and I'm going to send you backstage. Thank you again for. I'm looking forward to part two. I really am, so that we can continue this conversation. Thank you so much. For those of you who are watching and listening, um, I want to thank you for watching, for listening, and I really would like you to come back for part two, because I do feel a part two is needed. We need to continue this discussion. Please stay inspired. I'm hoping this inspired you. Please stay inspired, especially those of you, if you were watching and listening, that are over 50 or that are 50 and over. If you know of someone who is 50 and over, please have them to come and watch the part two of this live. Have them to watch this one and part two when we go live, because they need to hear this. They need to be part of the conversation as well. And just remember, it's never too late to pursue your dreams. I 100% agree with Karen. It is never too late to pursue your dreams. But before we close, I want you to remind you to please RSVP for the other exciting events that are happening during Global Entrepreneurship Week. There are other organizations and companies that are hosting GEW events all across St. Lucia. Find them on social media, find out where they're happening, when they're happening, and support them. Attend. And of course, we would love to see more persons hosting events for GEW next year. So again, thank you guys for joining. I really appreciate you for being here. This is me closing out for today. It is going to be the Sabbath very soon. I'm looking forward to it. That is my day of rest, my favorite day of the week. And I cannot wait to usher in the Sabbath. So again, thank you for joining, and have a wonderful, blessed day, guys. Enjoy the weekend.